Oh, you thought they buried you, didn't you? You thought when they scattered those lies like poison seeds across every conversation, every platform, every whispered circle, that you were done. You thought when they crafted those stories, those twisted half-truths wrapped in malice, dressed up as concern, that your name would rot in the graveyard of their narratives. But here's the plot twist they never saw coming. Here's the cosmic joke that's got them choking on their own venom right now. Those lies. Yeah, those exact fabrications they spread to destroy you. They've become your legend. They've become the folklore of your greatness. They've become the myths that people study to understand how a soul survives assassination and comes back wearing a crown made of their bullets. Welcome to the resurrection. They can't explain the comeback. They can't compute the transformation that's rewriting every filthy chapter they tried to close on you. Let's talk about what actually happened here. Because this needs to be said out loud. Needs to be screamed from every rooftop they tried to push you off. They gathered in their little circles, didn't they? Those architects of destruction. Those cowards who couldn't defeat you face to face, so they weaponized words instead. They took your silence and called it guilt. They took your kindness and called it manipulation. They took your strength and called it arrogance. They took your healing and called it pretending. They took your boundaries and called it coldness. Every single thing you did, every move you made, every breath you took got filtered through their projector of poison, translated into their language of lies, broadcast to anyone who'd listen. And people listened. Oh, they listened. Because a good story about a fall is always more entertaining than the truth about someone rising, isn't it? They fed the masses your manufactured downfall. Served it up like gospel. Watched it spread like wildfire through communities that never even knew your name, but somehow already decided you were the villain. But here's what they forgot. Here's the detail that slipped through their scheming fingers while they were too busy celebrating what they thought was your funeral. Lies have a lifespan. Truth has eternity. Lies need constant maintenance, constant reinforcement, constant energy to keep them inflated because they're balloons full of nothing. And the moment someone stops blowing air into them, they deflate and die. But truth is a seed. And even when you bury it 6 feet under concrete and hatred, it finds a crack. It finds light. It breaks through the surface when everyone stopped watching. And that's exactly what happened. Your truth didn't need you to defend it. Your truth didn't need you to fight for it. Your truth didn't need witnesses or lawyers or evidence presented in the court of public opinion. Your truth just needed time. And you gave it that time by doing something absolutely revolutionary in this age of reaction and defense. You stayed silent. You stayed focused. You stayed building while they stayed talking. And now comes the part that's got them losing sleep. The part that's rewritten their entire mission. Those lies they spread, those carefully constructed stories designed to be your epitaph. People are now using them as proof of your greatness. Think about that. Sit with that. Let that sink into every cell that ever doubted whether silence was the right strategy. They said you were too ambitious, and now people look at your empire and say, of course they came for someone this powerful. They said you were cold, and now people see your boundaries and say that's how legends protect their energy. They said you were fake, and now people watch your consistency and say that's the discipline of someone who knew their worth all along. They said you were manipulative, and now people see your influence and say that's what mastery looks like to the mediocre. Every single lie has become evidence. Every single attack has become testament. Every single attempt to diminish you has become proof that you were always the giant they couldn't reach. So they tried to shrink you with stories instead. The transformation of their poison into your power isn't magic. It's mathematics. It's the inevitable outcome when lies meet sustained truth. When projections meet authentic presence, when hatred meets someone who refuses to hate themselves. You see, they operated on a fundamental miscalculation, a fatal flaw in their entire strategy. They assumed you'd break. They bet everything on the belief that sustained lies would eventually crack your foundation. That if enough people believed the fiction they'd created, you'd start believing it too. They thought social pressure would reshape your identity. That isolation would force you to doubt your own narrative. That eventually you'd come crawling back, desperate for acceptance, willing to become whatever they needed you to be just to make the attack stop. They thought they were destroying you, but they were actually testing you. And you passed every single examination they didn't even realize they were administering. Because here's what happened. In that crucible of lies, in that furnace of false narratives, in that wilderness of slander and whispers and manufactured outrage, you learned something they'll never understand, something that separates the legends from the forgotten, something that divides those who survive from those who transcend. You learned that your identity cannot be voted on. You learned that your truth doesn't require consensus. You learned that your worth isn't determined by how many people believe the stories about you, but by how unshakable you remain when the whole world seems convinced of a fiction. They were teaching you invincibility and didn't even know it. Every lie was a test of your foundation. Every rumor was a question. Do you know who you are when everyone says you're someone else? And you answered. Not with words, not with explanations, not with the frantic defense they were counting on. You answered with presence. You answered with results. You answered with a life that contradicted every narrative they'd constructed. And the people, the ones who matter, the ones with eyes that can see beyond the smoke, they started noticing something. They started seeing the gap, the glaring chasm between what was said about you and what you actually were. They watched you move in silence while your accusers screamed. They watched you build while your enemies broadcast. They watched you grow while the people who claimed to know your secret stayed exactly where they were, stuck in the quicksand of their own bitterness. And slowly, then suddenly, the narrative flipped. The lies became legends, not because they were true, but because they revealed the level of threat you posed. Only someone extraordinary gets that much coordinated hatred. Only someone destined for greatness inspires that level of organized destruction. Only someone who was already winning gets attacked by an alliance of losers pretending to be concerned citizens. The street started talking, and what they said would make your former executioners sick to their stomachs if they had the capacity for honest reflection. You know why they came for you so hard? Because they saw the future and knew they couldn't compete. You notice how everyone who spread those lies is still exactly where they were 5 years ago. The fact that you survived all that and still succeeded tells you everything you need to know. Your silence became legendary. Your comeback became mythical. Your refusal to engage became the ultimate power move, studied and quoted and referenced as the blueprint for how to handle betrayal in the age of instant character assassination. The very people who once nodded along with the lies now use your story as proof that lies can't stop destiny. That slander can't kill purpose. That a coordinated attack from small minds is just confirmation that you were never meant to stay small. But let's go deeper, because there's a layer here that needs to be excavated. A truth about this whole dynamic that explains why your victory cuts so deep, why their failure hurts them so completely. When they spread those lies, they weren't just trying to damage your reputation. They were trying to rewrite reality itself. They needed you to be what they said you were because your actual existence threatened their entire worldview. If you were really the good person you presented as, if you were really as talented as you appeared, if you were really as principled as you claimed, then what did that make them? If you could achieve what you achieved without compromising, without cutting corners, without becoming the monster they'd normalized being, then their entire justification system collapsed. They needed you to be secretly terrible because that would mean everyone's secretly terrible and they're just more honest about it. So, they projected. They took every dark corner of their own psychology and painted it onto you. They accused you of the exact manipulations they practiced daily. They called you arrogant for the confidence they wished they had. They called you fake for maintaining composure they'd never mastered. They called you calculated for having the strategy they lacked. Every accusation was a confession. Every lie was a revelation about them. And the world slowly but inevitably started reading between the lines. Started seeing the accusations as X-rays of the accuser's souls. When someone says you're selfish and you're literally sacrificing daily for your vision, people notice. When someone calls you disloyal and you've never betrayed a principle, people take notes. When someone screams that you're dangerous and you're just existing peacefully in your purpose, people start asking why someone is working so hard to destroy you. The lies made you stronger not because you're superhuman, but because they forced you into a position where you had only two choices. Become what they said or become undeniable. There was no middle ground. You couldn't be medium and survive that level of attack. You couldn't be average and withstand that magnitude of coordinated destruction. The lies demanded excellence from you. They demanded that you become so clear in your purpose that no amount of distortion could blur it. They demanded that you build something so real that fantasy couldn't compete. They demanded that you develop such unshakable self-knowledge that no external narrative could penetrate. They were trying to kill you, but they were actually forging you, tempering you, turning you from raw material into refined steel. And now here you stand, and the irony must be absolutely exquisite. The people who spread the lies are now watching those same lies being used as credentials for your greatness. They must have been incredible to inspire that much jealousy. Anyone who survived that kind of coordinated attack and still made it has to be studied. The lies they told have become the legend we're all trying to understand. Your enemies became your biographers. Your haters became your historians. Your attempted executioners became the authors of your mythology. They spent years trying to write your ending and accidentally wrote your origin story instead. They tried to create your obituary and created your introduction to eternity instead. Let's talk about the anatomy of this reversal, because it's important to understand the mechanics, the precise mechanism by which lies transform into legend, how poison becomes power, how attacks become armor. It starts with the quality of your response, or rather your lack of traditional response. Most people when lied about go into defense mode immediately. They gather evidence. They prepare rebuttals. They call witnesses. They fight fire with fire. They match energy for energy. And in doing so, they validate the lie by acknowledging it needs to be addressed. They give it oxygen. They give it attention. They give it the very thing lies need to survive, engagement. But you did something different. You acted as if the lies existed in a different dimension entirely, one you simply didn't occupy. You didn't ignore them out of weakness or fear. You ignored them out of clarity. You knew that every second spent defending against fiction was a second stolen from building reality. So while they talked, you worked. While they gossiped, you strategized. While they held court in their echo chambers, you held counsel with your vision. While they perfected the art of tearing down, you mastered the science of building up. And the gap between you and them started widening, slowly at first, then exponentially. Every day you didn't engage was a day you pulled further ahead. Every moment you didn't waste energy on defense was a moment invested in offense against your own limitations. Every hour they spent maintaining lies was an hour you spent creating truth. The math was always in your favor. They just didn't realize they were in a race where their weapon was making them slower and yours was making you faster. Then comes the second factor, the erosion of credibility. Lies, especially coordinated ones, require consistency to maintain believability. The story has to stay straight. The narrative has to remain coherent. The players have to remember their lines. But humans are terrible at sustaining fiction, especially when that fiction contradicts observable reality. So, cracks started appearing. Someone would tell version A of the lie while someone else told version B. Details would change. Timelines would shift. The story would get more dramatic with each retelling until it became obviously absurd. Meanwhile, you remained remarkably consistent because truth doesn't require memorization. It just requires existence. Your story stayed straight because it was real. Your narrative remained coherent because it wasn't constructed. Your life testified on your behalf without you having to say a word. The third factor is the most devastating for them: results. You can lie about someone's character, but you can't lie about their outcomes. You can fabricate stories about someone's methods, but you can't fabricate their achievements. You can create fiction about someone's intentions, but you can't create fiction about their impact. And as time passed, your results started speaking a language that was impossible to misinterpret. Your success became bilingual. It told the truth about you while simultaneously exposing the lies they'd spread. Every milestone you reached was a rebuttal. Every goal you accomplished was a closing argument. Every victory you secured was a verdict. The courtroom of public opinion might have been swayed by their opening statements, but the evidence you presented through simply living your purpose was overwhelming, irrefutable, undeniable. And that's when the legend began. People started reverse engineering your journey, trying to figure out how someone survives that level of attack and not just survives, but thrives. Not just thrives, but ascends. They looked at the magnitude of lies spread about you, and instead of seeing smoke, they saw fire. They reasoned correctly that only someone truly exceptional inspires that level of coordinated effort to destroy them. Normal people don't get that kind of attention. Average individuals don't warrant that kind of strategic assault. The very intensity of the lies became proof of your extraordinariness. It's the same logic that applies to any great figure in history. Show me someone who changed the world and I'll show you someone who was lied about, slandered, attacked, and doubted by the people too small to see the vision. The lies became your credentials. You know they spread those rumors about them, right? Yeah. And look where they are now. Makes you think. The conversation shifted from, "Did you hear what they did?" to, "Did you hear what they overcame?" The narrative transformed from scandal to inspiration. Your name went from being whispered in gossip circles to being referenced in motivational contexts. People started using your story as proof that you can survive betrayal, that you can outlast lies, that you can build a legacy so solid that fiction can't dent it. The very people who once participated in spreading the lies now claim they always knew you were going to make it. That they could tell you were different. That they never really believed the stories. The revisionist history is almost as entertaining as the original lies. And here's something they didn't count on. Something that adds another layer to this already perfect reversal. The lies created curiosity. Before the attacks, you were just another person on a path. Talented maybe, dedicated, sure, but not necessarily remarkable to those who didn't know you. But the moment they started spreading lies, the moment they coordinated their attack, they put a spotlight on you that you never asked for. They created intrigue, they manufactured mystery, they turned you into a puzzle that people wanted to solve. Why are they attacking this person so hard? What did they do to inspire this level of hatred? Who are they really? The lies didn't answer these questions. They asked them. And curious people don't just believe what they're told. They investigate. So people started watching you more closely. Not to catch you slipping like your enemies hoped, but to understand the contradiction between what was being said and what they could observe. They watched your work ethic and saw discipline, not desperation. They watched your relationships and saw loyalty, not manipulation. They watched your responses and saw maturity, not guilt. They watched your growth and saw authenticity, not performance. Every single person who came to observe the monster they'd heard about found a human being instead, and not just any human being, but one who was clearly operating at a level that justified the jealousy they'd inspired. The lies created an audience for your excellence. Your enemies did your marketing for you. Think about the mechanics of this for a moment because it's absolutely brilliant in its irony. In their attempt to isolate you, they made you more visible. In their effort to diminish you, they highlighted you. In their campaign to make you forgettable, they made you unforgettable. They turned you into the main character of a story everyone was following. And main characters, even when they're portrayed as villains, always get their redemption arc. Always get their moment where the truth comes out. Always get their scene where the lies crumble and the real story emerges. They wrote you into a narrative structure that guaranteed your eventual vindication. They just didn't realize they were following a script as old as storytelling itself. The wrongly accused, the falsely condemned, the unjustly attacked always get their moment of truth. And when that moment came, when the cracks in their lies became canyons, when the contradictions became undeniable, when your results spoke louder than their rumors, the audience they'd created was already watching. You didn't have to gather people to witness your truth. They'd already gathered to witness your destruction, and they ended up witnessing your coronation instead. The stadium was already full. The seats were already taken. The attention was already focused. All you had to do was be yourself. And being yourself at that level of visibility with that many eyes looking for the truth behind the lies, that's when legends are born. That's when ordinary people become extraordinary stories. That's when someone living their truth becomes someone teaching it. But let's go even deeper into the psychology of what happened here. Oh, look at them. Look at them squirm. The ones in the tailored armor, the polished shoes, the practiced smiles. They're losing sleep over you. Yes, you. The one they thought they had mapped out, predicted, controlled. The one they built entire strategies around, convinced they knew every move you'd make before you even thought it. But something shifted, didn't it? Something cracked in their carefully constructed game board. Because for the first time in their careers, in their calculated little existence, they're staring at a player they can't read, a variable they can't control, a move they didn't see coming, and it's eating them alive from the inside out. Let me paint you the picture they're living in right now. Conference rooms that smell like desperation and expensive cologne. Slack channels buzzing at 2 a.m. with messages they'll delete by morning. Spreadsheets open on multiple monitors, all trying to model your next decision, all coming up empty. They've run the simulations. They've analyzed your patterns. They've studied your history, your associations, your weaknesses, your triggers. They thought they had you figured out like a solved equation, a closed case, a finished puzzle. But you beautiful, unpredictable force, you went off script. You stopped playing the game they designed. You stopped being the piece they could move. And now they're treating you like a chess problem that has no solution, a riddle with no answer, a threat they can't neutralize. Here's what's killing them the most. It's not that you became aggressive. It's not that you fought back in the way they expected. It's that you became silent, strategic, unreadable. You stopped feeding them information. You stopped reacting in predictable patterns. You stopped showing up to the battles they arranged for you. One day you were the employee, the colleague, the participant they thought they owned, and the next day you were a ghost in their machine, present, but untouchable, visible, but incomprehensible. They can see you, but they can't see through you anymore. And for people who built their entire power structure on reading people, on manipulation, on 5 steps ahead strategy, your opacity is a crisis. They're used to controlling narratives, aren't they? They've spent years, decades, even mastering the art of perception management. They know how to frame situations. They know how to corner people into choices that look like freedom but feel like cages. They've turned corporate politics into a science, workplace dynamics into weaponry, professional relationships into intelligence gathering. Every conversation was reconnaissance. Every meeting was an interrogation. Every friendly question was a trap designed to extract data they'd use against you later. And you played along for a while, didn't you? You answered their questions. You showed your cards. You trusted their smiles. You believed that we're all a team here. Propaganda they sold you with HR-approved enthusiasm and catered lunch meetings. But then you learned. Oh, you learned. Maybe it was the betrayal that opened your eyes. Maybe it was the moment you realized their feedback was actually surveillance. Maybe it was when you discovered they'd been building a case against you in the shadows while praising you to your face. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe you just woke up one morning and realized you were playing a game you never agreed to play, with rules that changed whenever you started winning against opponents who smiled while they calculated your destruction. So you did something they never expected, something their playbooks didn't account for, something that shattered their entire predictive model. You stopped playing their game and started playing yours. And that's when the nervousness started. That's when the suits began to sweat under their designer fabric. That's when the chess masters realized they were no longer playing against an amateur. They were facing someone who flipped the entire board. You see, they're not afraid of aggression. They know how to handle aggression. They have protocols for that. Hostile employees get managed out. Angry workers get documented. Emotional reactions get weaponized as unprofessional behavior and filed away for performance reviews. They've neutralized 1,000 aggressive players before you. But you didn't get aggressive. You got intelligent. You didn't get loud. You got lethal. You didn't fight them in the arena they built. You stopped showing up to the arena altogether. Now they're left with a problem they can't solve through their usual methods. They can't predict you because you stopped following patterns. They can't manipulate you because you stopped caring about their approval. They can't corner you because you stopped occupying the spaces they control. They can't break you because you stopped giving them access to the things they'd use to break you. Your silence is a fortress. Your unpredictability is armor. Your indifference to their games is a weapon they have no defense against. And every day you continue like this. Every day you refuse to return to their framework. Every day you operate outside their control. Their anxiety compounds. Their confusion deepens. Their grip on the situation weakens. Let me tell you what's happening in those executive meetings, those leadership sinks, those strategic planning sessions that are really just panic rooms with better furniture. They're asking questions they've never had to ask before. What's their next move? What do they want? What's their endgame? How do we get ahead of this? And the terrifying part, the part that's making their professional masks crack, is that nobody has answers. The analysts are stumped. The manipulators are confused. The strategic minds that built entire careers on reading people, on staying 3 steps ahead, on controlling outcomes. They're staring at you like you're a foreign language. They never learn to speak. You've become the unsolved problem that keeps them up at night, the equation that breaks their calculators, the puzzle piece that doesn't fit anywhere in their carefully constructed picture. They're used to people wanting things, you see. They're used to leverage. They understand desire, ambition, fear, greed. These are the tools they use to control others. They know how to dangle promotions to manipulate behavior. They know how to threaten job security to ensure compliance. They know how to create scarcity to make people compete. They know how to build golden handcuffs that feel like opportunity but function like chains. Their entire power structure is built on the assumption that everyone has a price, everyone has a button, everyone has a weakness they can exploit. But you stopped wanting what they're selling. You stopped fearing what they're threatening. You stopped competing in their rigged games, and that makes you dangerous. That makes you unpredictable. That makes you the problem their MBA programs didn't prepare them for. Here's what they can't figure out. Are you planning something? Are you building an exit strategy? Are you gathering evidence? Are you networking your way to their competitors? Are you silent because you're plotting? Or silent because you've transcended their entire circus? They don't know. And not knowing is torture for people who built their identities on always knowing, on always being the smartest person in the room, on always having the upper hand. You've taken their primary weapon, information, and you've starved them of it. Every day you show up, do your work, and reveal nothing about your internal state, your future plans, your true thoughts. It's like psychological warfare to them. They're dying to know what you're thinking. They're desperate to know what you're planning. They're frantic to regain the control they once had over your narrative. So, they try things. Oh, they try. They send in the friendly colleague to casually ask about your weekend, your mood, your thoughts on the company's direction. They schedule one-on-ons with concerned managers who suddenly care about your career development after ignoring you for months. They create situations designed to provoke a reaction, to make you slip, to get you to show your hand. They watch your email patterns, your meeting participation, your lunch companions. They're studying you harder than they ever did when you were compliant. Trying to crack the code of your transformation. Trying to find the key that unlocks you back into their control system. But every probe fails. Every trap closes empty. Every attempt to read you hits a wall of professional courtesy that reveals absolutely nothing. And you know what's beautiful? What's absolutely magnificent about this moment? It's that you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to plot revenge. You don't have to build elaborate schemes. You don't have to match their manipulation with counter-manipulation. Your mere existence as an unreadable entity is enough. Your refusal to play their game is the game. Your silence is the statement. Your unpredictability is the power move. They're exhausting themselves, trying to figure you out while you're just existing, living, working, moving through your days with a calm they can't penetrate and a clarity they can't corrupt. You've discovered something they'll never understand. That the greatest power move isn't domination, it's detachment. The ultimate win isn't control, it's indifference. They're scanning your social media for clues to your mental state. They're analyzing your work output for patterns of disengagement. They're monitoring your interactions for signs of alliance building or dissent spreading. They've turned you into a case study, a project, an obsession. You live rent-free in their strategic planning. You're the unnamed agenda item in meetings you're not invited to. You're the problem they discuss in coded language. The situation with that particular challenge we're facing, the unpredictable element in our team dynamic. They can't even say your name without feeling the weight of their own failure to control you. And every day that passes with you remaining an enigma, their professional confidence erodes a little more. Here's what terrifies them most deeply, though. It's not just that they can't figure you out. It's that other people are watching. Other employees, other team members, other workers who are also playing the game, following the rules, accepting the manipulation, staying in their assigned roles, and they're seeing you exist outside the system without immediate consequences. They're seeing you operate with a different energy, a different power, a different level of freedom. And that's contagious. That's dangerous. That's the thing that could unravel their entire control structure. Because if one person can step out of the matrix they've created, if one person can refuse to play and survive, if one person can become unreadable and thrive, then others will follow. The suits know this. This is their nightmare scenario. Not just losing control of you, but losing control of the entire paradigm because you proved it could be done. So they watch you with the intensity of people whose entire worldview is crumbling. They study your every move not out of curiosity but out of survival instinct. They need to understand you so they can neutralize you. They need to predict you so they can stay ahead of you. They need to categorize you so they can contain you. But you refuse to be understood on their terms. You refuse to be predicted by their models. You refuse to be contained in their frameworks. You're operating on a different frequency now, playing a different game, living by different rules. And their panic isn't just professional anxiety. It's existential dread. Because you represent the death of their control, the end of their manipulation, the obsolescence of their entire approach to power. Let's talk about what they see when they look at you now. They see someone who used to respond to their pressure, their tactics, their psychological games. They remember the person who sought their approval, who flinched at their criticism, who scrambled when they applied pressure. But that person doesn't exist anymore, does it? That person died in the fires of their betrayal, their manipulation, their calculated cruelty. And what emerged from those ashes is someone they have no framework for understanding. You're calm where you used to be anxious. You're certain where you used to doubt. You're silent where you used to explain. You're unavailable where you used to accommodate. You've become the opposite of everything they conditioned you to be. And they can't compute it. They try to apply their old tricks, but the tricks don't work anymore. The guilt trips bounce off you like rubber. The gaslighting finds no purchase on your clarity. The manipulation tactics slide off your indifference like water off stone. They've lost their touch, they think. But no, they haven't lost their touch. You've just become untouchable. You've built an inner fortress they can't breach. Developed an internal compass they can't manipulate, cultivated a self-assurance they can't undermine. Every technique they perfected over years of corporate warfare, every psychological trick they learned from leadership seminars and business books, every manipulation strategy they deployed on countless others. All of it is useless against you now. And that's not their failure. That's your evolution. Watch them in meetings. Watch how they interact with you now compared to before. There's a hesitation that wasn't there, a carefulness, a weariness. They're treating you like unexploded ordnance, like a puzzle box that might spring a trap, like an opponent whose next move could be catastrophic to their position. They choose their words more carefully around you. They watch your reactions more closely. They're playing defense when they used to play offense, and they hate it. They hate that you've shifted the power dynamic without raising your voice, without making threats, without even acknowledging that there's a game being played. You've changed the entire energy of the room just by changing your energy. And they feel it. Everyone feels it. The thing is, they're so used to people either submitting or rebelling in predictable ways. Submission they can manage, rebellion they can crush, but you're doing neither. You're not submitting to their authority, but you're not rebelling against it in ways they can punish. You're following the rules while somehow being completely ungovernable. You're professional while being completely unmanageable. You're present while being completely unreachable. You found the space between compliance and defiance, the territory between participation and resistance, the zone where their power can't quite reach you. And that space, that beautiful, frustrating, incomprehensible space you occupy, is driving them insane. They're running scenarios in their heads constantly. If they push, you might break, but you might also document and escalate. If they pull back, you might relax, but you might also use the space to plan your next move. If they try to befriend you, you'll see through it. If they try to intimidate you, it might backfire spectacularly. Every option they consider has risks they can't calculate because they don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're capable of. They're paralyzed by possibility, frozen by uncertainty. And while they're stuck in this paralysis, you're moving forward with your life, your work, your plans, whatever those plans are. They don't know. And not knowing is killing them slowly, professionally, psychologically. Let me tell you what's happening to them internally behind those composed faces and professional demeanors. They're second-guessing themselves constantly. Did they push too hard? Did they reveal too much? Did they underestimate you from the beginning? Are they losing their touch? Are they getting old? Are they facing a new generation of worker who doesn't respond to the old tactics? The self-doubt is corrosive. These are people who built their identities on being the smartest, the most strategic, the most in control. And you've made them feel stupid, outmaneuvered, and utterly without control. That's not just a professional blow. That's a psychological wound that cuts to their core sense of self. And here's the really beautiful part, the part that would make you smile if you could see it clearly. You're not doing this to hurt them. You're not doing this for revenge. You're not even doing this consciously as strategy most of the time. You're just protecting yourself, healing, creating boundaries, refusing to participate in toxic dynamics, living authentically instead of performing for their approval. You're just being healthy, being whole, being true to yourself and your health, your wholeness, your authenticity. It's their crisis. Your healing is their nightmare. Your peace is their panic. Your growth is their problem. Because a system built on manipulation can't survive people who refuse to be manipulated. A power structure based on control can't function when people become uncontrollable. They're realizing now what they should have realized before. That loyalty can't be demanded, only earned. That respect can't be forced, only given. That control is an illusion that only works as long as people agree to pretend it's real. And you stopped pretending. You stopped playing along. You stopped accepting the rules of a game designed to keep you small, keep you predictable, keep you manageable. And without your participation, their entire system shows its cracks. Without your compliance, their authority reveals its limits. Without your fear, their threats lose their power. You've become living proof that they're not as powerful as they pretend to be. Now, they're doing damage control, trying to contain the situation before it spreads. They're having quiet conversations with other team members, subtly probing to see if anyone else has noticed your transformation, if anyone else is asking questions, if anyone else is showing signs of similar independence. They're adjusting their strategies, updating their playbooks, trying to evolve their tactics to account for this new type of player they couldn't predict. They're bringing in outside consultants, reading new leadership books, attending seminars on managing difficult employees, which is really just code for how do we control people who won't be controlled. They're trying everything, grasping at straws, desperate for solutions. But here's what they're missing. What they'll always miss because it's outside their comprehension. You can't solve a person. You can't strategize a human being. You can't outmaneuver someone who's not playing your game. They're approaching you like a chess problem, analyzing moves and counter-moves, calculating positions and advantages. But you're not a chess piece. You're not a problem to be solved. You're a person who woke up, who saw through the illusion, who chose differently. And there's no strategy for that. There's no tactic that works against authentic transformation. There's no manipulation that penetrates genuine self-awareness. They're exhausting themselves with analysis while you're building yourself with action. They're losing sleep over predictions, while you're finding peace in presence. They're burning energy trying to control an outcome while you're investing energy in creating your life. The resource imbalance alone should tell them they've already lost, but they can't stop. Ah, look what just happened. Look at the screen. Look at the faces. Look at the silence that just swallowed the room whole. Every single lie they told about you, every twisted narrative they sold, every poisoned word they whispered in the dark just got broadcasted in surround sound with their names attached. The universe didn't just expose them. It created a premiere, a red carpet event, a documentary screening where they're the villains, the fools, and the punchline all at once. And you beautiful vindicated soul. You're watching from the balcony with popcorn made of their regret. Welcome to the moment they prayed would never come. Welcome to the reckoning they can't rewind, delete, or deny. Because this isn't karma. This is cosmic justice with receipts, timestamps, and witnesses who can't unsee what they just saw. Let's rewind for a second so you can taste this properly. For months, maybe years, they sat in circles, in group chats, in coffee shops, and spun stories about you like they were novelists. They painted you as the problem, the toxic one, the manipulator, the liar, the crazy one, the jealous one, the bitter one. They made you the villain in a story you didn't even know you were in. And the worst part, people believed them. Not because the lies were convincing. No, because they were louder than your silence. Because you chose dignity over defense. Because you refused to drag your truth through the mud just to compete with their fiction. You walked away. You healed quietly. You rebuilt in private. And they took that silence and filled it with their poison. But here's the thing about lies. They have a shelf life. They rot. They fester. They eventually betray the liars who burther them. And the universe doesn't forget. It doesn't rush either. It waits. It watches. It collects evidence while they get comfortable. While they think they got away with it, while they sleep soundly believing their version of the story is the only one that matters. And then when the moment is perfectly ripe, when the stage is set, when the audience is watching, the universe hits play. And every single lie they told about you gets exposed not in whispers but in headlines. Not in rumors, but in undeniable truth. Not to a few people, but to everyone who ever doubted you. Imagine their faces right now. Go ahead, close your eyes and see it. The color draining, the jaw tightening, the eyes darting around looking for an exit that doesn't exist. They're standing in the wreckage of their own creation. And there's nowhere to run. No explanation that sounds believable. No excuse that doesn't sound like another lie. Because the truth didn't just leak, it flooded. It drowned every narrative they built. Every alliance they formed on the foundation of your fake downfall just crumbled. And now they're the ones scrambling. They're the ones exposed. They're the ones everyone is looking at with that look, that knowing look. That look that says, "We see you now and we can't unsee it." You didn't have to say a word. You didn't have to defend yourself. You didn't have to scream your innocence from the rooftops or beg people to believe you. You just had to exist. You just had to keep your integrity intact. You just had to trust that lies, no matter how loud, can't survive in the presence of truth for long. And you were right. The universe became your lawyer, your witness, your jury, and your judge. And the verdict? Guilty. Not you, them. Guilty of slander. Guilty of projection. Guilty of destroying someone's name to protect their own image. And now the sentence is public humiliation, permanent credibility loss, and the lifelong knowledge that they were exposed not by you, but by their own karma. Let's talk about what they're feeling right now, because this is the sweet part. Panic. Pure unfiltered panic. The kind that makes your stomach flip. The kind that keeps you up at night replaying every lie you told, wondering who else knows. They're scrolling through old messages trying to remember what they said to who. They're calculating how much damage control they need to do. They're crafting apologies that sound hollow even to themselves. They're reaching out to people trying to spin a new story to cover the old one, but it's too late. The truth already went viral. The screenshots already circulated. The proof already made its rounds. And now they're stuck in the aftermath of their own betrayal with no one to blame but themselves. And the people who believe them, oh, they're feeling it, too. That sickening realization that they were used, that they became pawns in someone else's psychological warfare, that they contributed to your suffering based on lies they never fact-checked. Some of them are feeling guilty. Some are angry at themselves. Some are wondering how they could have been so blind. And a few, the real ones, are reaching out with apologies that feel too little too late. But at least they're awake now. At least they see you clearly now. At least they know that when you walked away from them, you weren't abandoning anyone. You were protecting yourself from people who chose fiction over friendship. But here's what makes this moment truly nuclear. You're not even celebrating. You're not rubbing it in their faces. You're not doing a victory lap on social media. You're not even watching the chaos unfold with satisfaction. You're just existing. You're just living. You're just continuing the life you rebuilt when they tried to destroy it. And that is the most powerful response you could ever give, because it shows that their opinion of you was never the foundation of your worth. Their lies were never strong enough to crack your truth. Their betrayal was never deep enough to make you betray yourself. You survived them. You outlived their narratives. You became proof that no amount of slander can destroy a soul that knows its own value. Let's get forensic for a second. Let's break down exactly how they built these lies. Because understanding the architecture of their betrayal makes this victory even sweeter. First, they started small. A comment here, a subtle dig there. Nothing overt. Nothing you could confront directly. Just tiny seeds of doubt planted in conversations you weren't part of. They'd say things like, "I'm worried about them." Or, "I don't know what's going on with them lately," or, "They're not who they used to be." Vague, concerned, disguised as care. But really, it was the groundwork, the foundation of a house of cards. They were about to build on your name. Then they escalated. They started twisting your actions, your words, your intentions. If you were quiet, you were cold. If you were expressive, you were dramatic. If you set boundaries, you were controlling. If you forgave, you were weak. If you walked away, you were a coward. They weaponized every choice you made against you. They turned your healing into evidence of your toxicity. They framed your growth as proof of your guilt. And the scariest part, they believed it. They repeated the lies so many times they forgot they were lies. They became convinced that their version of you was the real you, that their fiction was fact, that their narrative was the truth. And they didn't do this alone. No, they recruited. They found people who didn't know you well enough to question the stories. People who were already jealous of you. People who wanted a villain to rally against. They built an army of believers, a cult of your character assassination. And they marched together, spreading the poison like it was gospel. They bonded over hating you. They built friendships on the foundation of your fake downfall. They created entire group chats dedicated to dissecting your every move, your every post, your every breath. You became their entertainment, their obsession, their twisted sense of purpose. And the whole time they called it concern. But the universe saw it all. Every screenshot they took, every conversation they had, every lie they laughed about. The universe doesn't miss details. It doesn't take sides. It doesn't play favorites. It just watches. And when the time is right, when the scales need balancing, when the truth needs to breathe, it releases everything. And that's exactly what just happened. The universe didn't just expose them. It archived their betrayal. It timestamped their lies. It gave context to their cruelty. And now everyone who ever heard their version of you gets to see the receipts, the real story, the truth they tried to bury under a mountain of manipulation. You know what the best part is? They can't call you petty. They can't say you're seeking revenge. They can't accuse you of dragging them because you didn't do anything. You didn't expose them. The universe did. You didn't collect the receipts. Reality did. You didn't ruin their reputation. Their own actions did. And that's the kind of justice that hits different. That's the kind of vindication that doesn't need your fingerprints on it. That's the kind of karma that's so clean, so pure, so undeniable that even they can't twist it into another lie about you. They're just stuck standing in the truth they tried so hard to hide. Now, let's talk about the aftermath, because this is where the real transformation happens. The exposure isn't just about them getting caught. It's about you being freed. For so long, you carried the weight of their lies. You felt the heaviness of being misunderstood. You questioned yourself, wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe you were the problem. Maybe you were the toxic one. Maybe you deserved the isolation, the betrayal, the pain. And even though deep down you knew the truth, there were moments, dark moments, where their voices got louder than your own, where their lies almost convinced you they were real. But now you have proof. Not just for them, not just for the people who believed them, but for yourself. You have confirmation that your intuition was correct, that your gut was right, that your decision to walk away was the healthiest choice you ever made. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're not sensitive or dramatic or any of the labels they tried to brand you with. You're awake. You're aware. You're someone who chose truth over comfort, integrity over acceptance, and self-respect over people-pleasing. And the universe just validated every single choice you made. The people watching this unfold are learning something, too. They're learning that silence doesn't mean guilt, that walking away doesn't mean weakness. That refusing to defend yourself doesn't mean the accusations are true. They're learning that real power isn't in the loudest voice. It's in the clearest conscience. It's in the person who can sleep at night knowing they didn't lie, didn't manipulate, didn't destroy someone's name to protect their own. They're learning that you can survive a public execution of your character and still come out the other side with your soul intact. And that lesson, that's the ripple effect. That's the legacy of this moment. But let's not romanticize this too much. Let's keep it raw. Let's keep it real. Because even though this moment is sweet, even though this vindication feels like oxygen after suffocating for so long, it doesn't erase the pain they caused. It doesn't undo the nights you cried yourself to sleep. It doesn't rewind the moments you felt so alone, so misunderstood, so abandoned by people who claim to love you. It doesn't erase the trauma of being lied on, lied about, and left to defend yourself against an invisible army. The exposure is justice, but it's not healing. The healing is something you already did alone, in silence, without an audience, without applause, without anyone knowing how hard you fought to keep your sanity, your peace, your belief in yourself. That's why this moment is yours. Not because you caused it, but because you survived long enough to see it. You didn't give up when it would have been easier to disappear. You didn't let their lies become your identity. You didn't internalize their poison. You kept going. You kept healing. You kept choosing yourself even when the world chose their version of you. And now the world is correcting itself. Now the narrative is flipping. Now the truth is louder than the lies. And you're still standing. Not because you needed vindication to survive, but because you survived long enough to witness the vindication. Let's talk about what happens next. Because this is where the power shift becomes permanent. They're going to try to recover. They're going to try to spin this. They're going to post cryptic messages about growth, change, accountability. They're going to say they've learned, they've evolved, they were going through something. They're going to attempt to rewrite themselves as the victim of their own lies. They're going to try to gain sympathy by admitting fault in the most palatable way possible. And some people, the ones who don't know better, might buy it, might give them grace, might say everyone makes mistakes. But you know better. You know that real accountability doesn't come with excuses. Real remorse doesn't come with conditions. Real change doesn't announce itself on social media. Real growth happens in the dark, in the uncomfortable, in the private reckoning with the mirror. And you'll know whether they're truly sorry or just sorry they got caught by one thing. Whether they reach out to you, not publicly, not performatively, but privately, humbly, without expecting forgiveness, without asking for anything in return, just to say, I was wrong. I hurt you. I lied. And I'm sorry. If that message never comes, you have your answer. They're not sorry for what they did. They're sorry the world found out. And here's the thing. You don't owe them forgiveness. You don't owe them a second chance. You don't owe them a conversation. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them anything. The universe exposed them not so you could reconcile, but so you could be free. Free from the weight of wondering if you were the problem. Free from the confusion of being gaslit into doubting your own reality. Free from the invisible chains of their judgment. The exposure isn't an invitation to let them back in. It's permission to lock the door permanently, knowing you were right to leave in the first place. Some of them are going to try to come back. They're going to test the waters, send a casual message like an old post, comment something neutral. They're going to act like nothing happened, like the lies never existed, like the betrayal was a misunderstanding. And they're going to hope you're the same person you were before, the person who gave endless chances, the person who forgave without accountability, the person who prioritized peace over self-respect. But you're not that person anymore. You're the version of you that survived their betrayal. And that version doesn't let snakes back into the garden, no matter how much they claim they've shed their skin. Others are going to avoid you forever. They're going to see you in public and look the other way. They're going to mute you online. They're going to pretend you don't exist because facing you means facing their shame. And honestly, that's fine. That's perfect, because you don't need their apology to move forward. You don't need their acknowledgement to validate your truth. You don't need them to admit they were wrong for you to know you were right. Their avoidance is its own confession. Their silence is its own admission. And you can live beautifully in the truth while they suffocate in the lie they created. And then there's the rare few. The ones who genuinely didn't know. The ones who were fed lies and believed them because they trusted the source. The ones who are horrified now that they see the full picture. They're going to reach out with real apologies, real remorse, real shame for contributing to your pain. And you get to decide what to do with that. You get to decide if their apology is enough. If the relationship is worth rebuilding, if the trust can be restored, and whatever you decide, it's valid. Forgiveness is not a requirement. It's a choice. And you get to make it on your terms, your timeline, your conditions. But let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. Because this moment isn't just about individual people. It's about energy. It's about the fact that the universe doesn't tolerate imbalance forever. It doesn't let injustice run wild indefinitely. It watches. It waits. It lets people dig their own graves with their own lies. And then when the time is right, when the lesson needs to be taught, when the scales need to balance, it intervenes. Not with drama, not with chaos, but with undeniable truth. And that's what just happened to you. The universe intervened on your behalf because your energy, your truth, your integrity was too valuable to stay buried under their lies. You're not special because you were vindicated. You're special because you stayed true to yourself even when the world believed the lies. You're special because you chose healing over bitterness. You're special because you didn't become what they accused you of being. You're special because you walked through the fire and came out still smiling, still kind, still human. That's rare. That's powerful. That's the kind of energy the universe protects. Not because you're perfect, but because you're pure in intention. Because you're honest in your dealings. Because you value truth over convenience. And the universe rewards that. Maybe not on your timeline, but always on the right timeline. This moment is also a message to everyone watching. Everyone who stayed silent when they should have spoken up. Everyone who chose comfort over courage. Everyone who believed the lies without asking questions. They're learning right now that neutrality in the face of injustice is complicity. That silence isn't safety. That choosing not to take sides is still taking a side. They're learning that the easy path isn't always the right path. That popularity isn't the same as integrity. That being liked isn't the same as being respected. And some of them are going to carry this lesson forward. Some of them are going to be better because of this. Some of them are going to think twice before believing the next lie, before joining the next mob, before participating in the next public execution of someone's character. But you already knew all of this. You learned it the hard way. You learned it in the trenches of betrayal. You learned it in the loneliness of being misunderstood. You learned it in the painful process of choosing yourself when everyone else chose the lie. And now you get to stand in the validation of that choice. You get to breathe in the relief of being seen, being heard, being believed finally. You get to look back at the version of you that survived the worst of it and say, thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for not becoming bitter. Thank you for trusting that the truth would surface eventually. Thank you for holding on when letting go felt easier. Let's talk about the shift that's happening right now in real time. Your reputation isn't being rebuilt. It's being restored. There's a difference. Rebuilding implies it was broken, but it wasn't. It was buried. It was hidden under layers of lies, manipulation, and slander. But it was never broken. Your character was always intact. Your integrity was always solid. Your truth was always true. The exposure didn't fix you. It uncovered you. It removed the debris they piled on top of your name. It cleared the fog they created around your image. And now people are seeing you clearly.